What if I told you that the greatest warrior in Japanese history never relied on strength, speed, or superior weapons to achieve his legendary victories, but instead mastered 8 seemingly insignificant daily habits that transformed not just his battlefield prowess, but his entire approach to life itself? Minamoto no Yoshitsune, the brilliant military strategist who lived over 800 years ago, understood something that most people today completely miss about the nature of true mastery and personal transformation. While others focused on grand gestures and dramatic changes, Yoshitsune discovered that real power comes from the accumulation of small, deliberate actions performed with unwavering consistency. His approach was so revolutionary that it not only made him virtually undefeatable in battle, but also created a framework for personal excellence that remains just as relevant today as it was in 12th century Japan. Before we dive into these 8 transformative habits, I want you to do something right now. Hit that like button if you have ever felt like you are capable of so much more than what you are currently achieving. Subscribe to this channel because we are building something special here for people who refuse to settle for mediocrity. And most importantly, leave a comment telling me this exact phrase: I am ready to master the small things that create extraordinary results. Because when you write those words, you are making a commitment not just to yourself, but to everyone else who will read your comment and feel inspired to begin their own journey of transformation. The first habit that separated Yoshitsune from every other warrior of his time was something he called the morning clarity ritual, a practice that took only 7 minutes each day, but created the mental foundation for everything else he accomplished. Every morning, before dawn, Yoshitsune would sit in complete silence and perform what he described as clearing the battlefield of the mind. He would spend 2 minutes acknowledging every fear, doubt, or anxiety that had accumulated in his consciousness, not to judge these feelings, but simply to recognize them as temporary visitors. Then he would spend 3 minutes visualizing the person he intended to become that day, focusing on character qualities and internal states rather than external achievements. Finally, he would spend 2 minutes setting his daily victory intention, which was always focused on winning the battle against his own limitations and destructive habits. What made this practice so powerful was the consistency and philosophical framework behind it. Yoshitsune understood that every external victory begins with an internal victory, and that the quality of your day is determined by the mental state you cultivate before anything else can influence your consciousness. In your personal life, this translates to creating a morning routine that prioritizes mental clarity before checking your phone or engaging with external input. In your relationships, it means starting each day with clear intention about how you want to show up for people you care about. In your professional life, it means beginning each workday with a focused vision of the person you want to be and the value you want to create. The second habit was strategic pause mastery, which involved training himself to create a moment of conscious choice between any stimulus and his response. Most people live their entire lives in unconscious reactivity, immediately responding based on current emotional state or impulses. Yoshitsune developed a technique for breaking this cycle. Whenever he encountered any situation that triggered an emotional response, he would pause for exactly 3 heartbeats before taking action. During those 3 heartbeats, he would ask 3 specific questions. First, what is this situation trying to teach me? This shifted his focus from reactive emotion to curiosity and learning. Second, what response would the person I want to become choose in this moment? This connected him to his highest values rather than immediate impulses. Third, how can I use this situation to practice a virtue or strengthen a positive quality? This transformed every challenge into an opportunity for character building. The practical applications are unlimited. In personal situations, when someone treats you unfairly, instead of immediately defending or attacking, you pause and ask these questions. Often discovering the situation offers a chance to practice patience or compassion. In relationships, when your partner triggers anger, the pause prevents regrettable responses while accessing more thoughtful reactions that strengthen connection. In professional settings, when facing criticism or pressure, the pause creates space for wisdom rather than fear-based reactions that worsen situations. Now I want to pause here and speak directly to you. Some of what I am sharing might seem too simple to be powerful or too ancient to be relevant to your modern challenges. Let me tell you something that Yoshitsune understood better than almost anyone in history. The most profound transformations come not from dramatic changes or complex systems, but from simple practices applied with extraordinary consistency. The reason most people never experience the breakthrough they desperately want is not because they lack information, but because they underestimate the cumulative power of small daily actions and overestimate the importance of occasional dramatic efforts. The third habit reveals Yoshitsune's understanding that physical and mental preparation were inseparably connected. He developed the Body-Mind Unity Protocol, spending exactly 20 minutes daily in carefully designed physical movements that served multiple purposes beyond fitness. The first 5 minutes involved foundation movements, basic exercises performed with complete mindfulness, creating a bridge between mental intention and physical execution. During these movements, he practiced maintaining perfect concentration while his mind wanted to wander. The next 10 minutes involved challenge movements that pushed him beyond his comfort zone while requiring precise control. The key was maintaining perfect form and mental presence even under physical stress, teaching him to think clearly under pressure. The final 5 minutes were integration movements, gentle exercises that restored balance while reinforcing the mind-body connection. This approach built both physical fitness and mental training simultaneously. In your personal life, this translates to creating daily movement practice that serves as both exercise and mental training. In relationships, regular physical practice builds confidence and emotional regulation that improves interactions. In professional life, the discipline developed through consistent physical practice directly translates to better decision-making and increased resilience under pressure. The fourth habit demonstrates Yoshitsune's understanding of how service creates personal power. He practiced anonymous excellence, deliberately seeking daily opportunities to help others without recognition. This was not about charity, but understanding that focusing on what you can get creates scarcity and neediness, while focusing on contribution develops abundance and confidence that naturally attracts opportunities. Every day, Yoshitsune would identify at least one way to improve someone's life without possibility of recognition. These acts reinforced his identity as someone with abundant resources, gradually eliminating insecurity from his consciousness. This developed unshakable inner authority, a quality people sensed that made them naturally want to follow his leadership. In personal life, this involves daily opportunities to help family or friends without seeking recognition. In relationships, it means consistently doing thoughtful things for partners not to earn gratitude, but to reinforce your identity as someone who creates value. In professional environments, anonymous excellence might involve helping colleagues without expecting advancement or staying late to support team goals without special acknowledgement. Here is something crucial you must understand. Yoshitsune's approach to personal development was completely different from modern self-improvement. He never focused on getting something for himself, but entirely on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracted outcomes as a byproduct of character. When you practice these habits to improve yourself for better results, you approach from a mindset of lack that undermines effectiveness. When you practice them simply because they align with who you are becoming, you tap into sustainable motivation that never depends on external circumstances. The fifth habit reveals Yoshitsune's sophisticated understanding of transforming information into embodied wisdom. He practiced deep learning meditation, spending 15 minutes each evening systematically processing the day's experiences. The first 5 minutes involved essence distillation, identifying the most important lesson from daily events and formulating it as a specific principle for future application. The next 5 minutes involved integration visualization, mentally rehearsing how to apply this new understanding in future scenarios, programming his unconscious mind for better decision-making. The final 5 minutes involved wisdom anchoring, connecting new insights to existing knowledge to create a coherent philosophy that grew stronger over time. This transformed every experience into learning, and every learning into practical capability. In personal life, this means daily extraction of wisdom from experiences and identifying applications for better future choices. In relationships, it involves reflecting on interactions to understand communication dynamics and human nature. In professional life, this ensures continuous development from every project or challenge, building practical wisdom that increases your value and capability. The sixth habit demonstrates Yoshitsune's remarkable insight into the relationship between emotional states and peak performance, showing how he maintained optimal mental and emotional condition, regardless of external circumstances or pressure. He practiced what he called emotional alchemy, a specific technique for transforming negative emotional states into positive energy and mental clarity, rather than simply trying to suppress or ignore difficult feelings. Most people approach negative emotions with one of two ineffective strategies. They either try to avoid or suppress these feelings, which only makes them stronger and more disruptive, or they indulge in these emotions and allow them to control their thinking and behavior, which leads to poor decisions and damaged relationships. Yoshitsune discovered a third approach that was far more effective and psychologically sophisticated than either of these common patterns. Whenever he experienced anger, fear, disappointment, frustration, or any other challenging emotion, he would immediately implement a three-phase process that transformed the emotional energy into mental clarity and personal power. The first phase involved what he called emotional recognition, spending exactly 60 seconds fully experiencing and acknowledging the emotion without trying to change it or judge it as good or bad. During this phase, he would pay attention to where he felt the emotion in his body, what thoughts it generated in his mind, and what impulses or actions it made him want to take. This complete acknowledgement actually reduced the intensity and duration of the emotion, while providing valuable information about what the feeling was trying to tell him about his situation or his needs. The second phase involved what he called energy redirection, consciously choosing to use the physiological energy generated by the emotion to fuel positive action rather than destructive behavior. Anger could be redirected into determination and focused effort. Fear could be transformed into heightened awareness and careful preparation. Disappointment could become motivation for improvement and creative problem-solving. The key was understanding that emotions are essentially energy, and that this energy can be channeled in any direction you choose, once you develop the skill to separate the energy from the automatic behavioral patterns that usually accompany it. The third phase involved what he called wisdom extraction, asking specific questions designed to understand what valuable information the emotion contained about his situation, his goals, or his personal development needs. Rather than seeing negative emotions as problems to be solved, he viewed them as feedback from his unconscious mind about important aspects of his life that required attention or adjustment. This approach not only eliminated the disruptive effects of negative emotions, but actually made them valuable tools for self-awareness and personal growth. The practical applications of emotional alchemy in modern life are profound and can dramatically improve your effectiveness in every area. In personal situations, when you experience stress, anxiety, or frustration about your circumstances, this technique allows you to transform these feelings into motivation and clarity, rather than allowing them to overwhelm your thinking or lead to destructive behaviors. In relationships, when conflicts or misunderstandings generate anger or hurt feelings, emotional alchemy enables you to process these emotions constructively and use the energy to improve communication and deepen connection, rather than damaging the relationship. In professional settings, when you face criticism, setbacks, or high-pressure situations that generate fear or anger, this practice allows you to maintain optimal performance and decision-making ability while using the emotional energy to fuel excellence rather than reactive behavior. Now let me share something with you that Yoshitsune understood about human nature and personal transformation that will completely change how you approach not just these habits, but your entire journey of self-improvement and life enhancement. Most people believe that change is difficult because it requires willpower, discipline, and forcing yourself to do things you do not want to do. This belief is not only incorrect, but it actually makes change much harder than it needs to be, and leads to the kind of temporary motivation that disappears as soon as you encounter obstacles or pressure. Yoshitsune discovered that lasting change becomes effortless when you understand how to align your daily practices with your deepest values and your authentic desire for growth and contribution. The secret is not to focus on changing behaviors or achieving specific outcomes, but to focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally engages in those behaviors and attracts those outcomes as an expression of their character and identity. When you practice these habits not to get something you want, but to express who you are becoming, the process becomes sustainable, enjoyable, and increasingly powerful over time. The seventh habit reveals Yoshitsune's advanced understanding of how external environment and internal state interact to either support or undermine personal excellence and character development. He practiced what he called sacred space creation, deliberately designing his physical environment and daily routines to reinforce the qualities and capabilities he wanted to develop, rather than leaving his surroundings to chance or convenience. Most people underestimate how profoundly their physical environment affects their mental state, emotional condition, and behavior patterns, essentially allowing random external influences to shape their consciousness and determine their performance. Yoshitsune recognized that everything in your environment either supports your highest potential or detracts from it, so he became extremely intentional about creating physical and social conditions that naturally elevated his thinking and encouraged his best qualities. This was not about having expensive possessions or impressive surroundings, but about organizing every aspect of his environment to serve his development and reinforce his values. In his living space, every object had a specific purpose and was arranged in a way that promoted clarity, focus, and peace of mind. He eliminated anything that was broken, unused, or associated with negative memories or limiting beliefs. Understanding that physical clutter creates mental clutter, and that disorganized surroundings encourage disorganized thinking. He surrounded himself with items that reminded him of his goals, his values, and the person he was becoming, creating a physical environment that constantly reinforced his commitment to excellence and growth. In his work area, everything was arranged to support optimal performance and minimize distractions or energy drains. Tools and materials were organized for efficiency and accessibility, and the space was designed to inspire focus and creativity rather than stress or confusion. He understood that when your environment supports your goals, achieving those goals requires less willpower and becomes more natural and sustainable. Even more importantly, he was extremely careful about the social environment he created and maintained. He consciously chose to spend time with people who shared his commitment to growth, excellence, and service, while limiting his exposure to individuals who embraced mediocrity, complained constantly, or encouraged destructive behaviors. This was not about being judgmental or antisocial, but about understanding that you inevitably become like the people you spend the most time with. So choosing your social environment is one of the most important decisions you can make for your long-term development and success. The practical applications of sacred space creation in modern life can transform your daily experience and dramatically accelerate your progress towards your goals. In your personal life, this means organizing your home to support the habits and activities that align with your values, removing items that create stress or remind you of past failures, and surrounding yourself with things that inspire and motivate you. In your relationships, it means being intentional about spending time with people who encourage your growth and limiting contact with individuals who consistently drain your energy or discourage your efforts to improve. In your professional environment, sacred space creation involves organizing your workspace to support optimal performance, eliminating distractions that undermine your focus, and whenever possible, working with colleagues who share your commitment to excellence and continuous improvement. The eighth and final habit synthesizes everything Yoshitsune learned about mastery, fulfillment, and lasting impact, representing the culmination of his philosophical approach to life and the secret to his extraordinary legacy. He practiced what he called legacy living, making every decision and taking every action based on the long-term impact it would have on his character, his relationships, and his contribution to the world, rather than focusing primarily on immediate benefits or short-term outcomes. This habit required him to regularly step back from the immediate pressures and demands of daily life, to consider the bigger picture of what he wanted his life to represent, and what kind of influence he wanted to have on others. Every morning, as part of his clarity ritual, and every evening, as part of his learning meditation, Yoshitsune would spend a few minutes asking himself specific questions designed to keep him connected to his deepest purposes and highest aspirations. He would ask himself how his actions and decisions that day either supported or detracted from the kind of person he wanted to be remembered as, what impact his choices had on the people around him and the causes he cared about, and whether he was using his time, energy, and abilities in ways that aligned with his most important values and long-term objectives. This was not an exercise in perfection or self-criticism, but a practice of conscious alignment that ensured his daily life remained connected to his deepest sense of purpose and meaning. What made this practice so powerful was that it transformed every ordinary moment and routine decision into an opportunity to build the kind of character and create the kind of impact that would matter long after his immediate goals and challenges were forgotten. Legacy living meant that he was never just going through the motions or simply reacting to whatever circumstances he encountered, but was always consciously participating in the creation of something meaningful and lasting. The habit also included what he called future self-consultation, regularly imagining conversations with the person he would become 10 or 20 years in the future, and asking that wiser, more experienced version of himself for guidance about current decisions and challenges. This technique allowed him to access perspective and wisdom that transcended his current limitations and emotional states, essentially giving him access to better judgment and decision-making ability in the present moment. In your personal life, legacy living means making daily choices based on the kind of person you want to become and the kind of life you want to look back on with pride and satisfaction, rather than simply pursuing immediate pleasure or avoiding temporary discomfort. In your relationships, it involves treating every interaction as an opportunity to express your highest values and create positive impact in other people's lives, building connections that will remain meaningful and supportive for decades. In your professional life, legacy living means focusing on the value you create, the problems you solve, and the positive influence you have on colleagues and clients, rather than just pursuing income, status, or personal advancement. As we reach the end of our journey through these 8 transformative habits, I want you to understand something crucial about what you have just learned and how you can use it to create the kind of breakthrough you have been seeking in your own life. These are not simply techniques or strategies to try for a few weeks and then abandon when they become challenging or inconvenient. They are foundational principles for living that have the power to completely reshape your experience of life, your relationships, your career, and your sense of personal fulfillment and meaning. But here is what you must understand if you want to gain the maximum benefit from what we have discussed today. Knowledge without consistent application is completely worthless, and even the most powerful principles in the world cannot help you unless you commit to implementing them with the same dedication and consistency that Yoshitsune brought to his practice over 800 years ago. The transformation you seek will not come from understanding these concepts intellectually, but from making them a living part of your daily routine until they become as natural and automatic as breathing. I want you to choose just one of these 8 habits, the one that resonated most strongly with you, or seems most relevant to your current challenges and goals, and commit to practicing it every single day for the next 30 days without exception. Do not try to implement all 8 habits at once, because that approach leads to overwhelm and failure. Instead, focus on mastering one habit completely before adding another, building your personal transformation on a foundation of proven success rather than good intentions and scattered efforts. More importantly, I want you to understand that by subscribing to this channel and engaging with this content, you are joining a community of people who refuse to settle for mediocrity and are committed to applying ancient wisdom to create extraordinary modern lives. We explore these profound teachings not as academic curiosities, but as practical tools for transformation that can help you break through the limitations that have been holding you back and create the kind of life that most people only dream about. Hit that subscribe button right now and click the notification bell, because we regularly share content that builds on these foundational principles and can help you continue developing the mindset and habits that create lasting success and fulfillment. Leave a comment below telling me which of these 8 habits you are going to implement first and how you plan to integrate it into your daily routine. Because when you make that public commitment, you dramatically increase the likelihood that you will follow through and actually experience the transformation these practices can create. Your success and growth matter not just to you, but to everyone whose life you will touch and influence as you become the kind of person these habits will help you develop into. And that is exactly the kind of legacy that Yoshitsune himself would have been proud to support and encourage.